you may not reap where you sow, you may not reap when you sow, but you will reap way more than what you sow.
I find myself getting frustrated in businesses when
If you have good intentions, you're doing business ethically the right way, and you're pouring and providing value, then it's going to have an outcome in your business in some way, shape, or form.
In the Bible, it talks about you need to have faith, but faith without deeds is dead. It doesn't matter what you believe if you don't take any sort of action.
Mind is extremely powerful. Whatever you see in your mind is how you live your life.
Putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation will allow yourself to get to the next level of success. You don't need to go broke, but you need to put yourself in a state of hunger. If you don't have something that you're living for other than yourself, it's going to be tough to get to the next level.
There's a hierarchy of thought process. At the complete top of the mind, there should be
Welcome to 100 Mil Podcast, episode 5. I'm Dan.
I'm Hirsch. Let's get it. Let's jump right in. And I'm grateful for all of you guys that are listening in on this. So we got some good topics today. We are going to start doing a Q&A for some of you guys that are out there. And I think it'll be easier for us to tailor the content more for the audience and what they want to learn, what they want to hear. So keep an eye out for that. We're going to do Q&As on our IG. We're going to do Q&As on, you can even shoot your messages in as DMs and stuff like that. If you have specific topics and leadership and entrepreneurship and just life in general, relationships. And if whatever you're trying to learn or hurdles you're trying to jump through, give us a topic that you'd like to listen more about, and we will touch upon that topic. And today we have a couple people that messaged in on some topics that they wanted to listen in on. So I think we're going to get right into that.
So the first topic of today, we're going to speak about the power of planting seeds in leadership and why that's so important. Yes. So, I shared something on my Instagram story the other day. There's the parable of the sower in the Bible, and Jesus talks about basically that there's this farmer and he goes out and sows the seeds, and some of the seeds fall by the wayside. Some of the seeds get hit by the scorched earth. Some of the seeds get hit with thorns and don't sprout up and create plants. And then some of the seeds go and create plants 100, 1,000 times fold. And I think that's relevant in leadership, really in sales too. Absolutely. When you're finding and introducing yourself to people, they're kind of like the seeds.
Absolutely. No, it's so important. I love that you brought this phrase up, and I think sometimes people in business, they always have this phrase, I need to see it to believe it. I need to see it to believe it. Mm-hmm. And they want like fast results, but they're not willing to put in the value to see that type of outcome. So I love that phrase with the planting the seeds. Through the experience in businesses and things that I've done in the past, there's been times where I've been sowing and then sowing and then sowing and planting seeds and planting seeds and planting seeds. And, another phrase that goes along with that I like is that, you may not reap where you sow, you may not reap, when you sow, but you will reap way more than what you sow. And that's happened to us many times in business, where I could be working and mentoring somebody. Mm-hmm. Let's say we gave them a lot of value in business. We taught them how to make 6 figures in solar sales. And we taught them how to do, let's say, virtual sales. Mm-hmm. And maybe this person disappears somehow. They took the knowledge that disappeared. Maybe this person's brother or somebody that worked for this person reaches out to us and says, hey, listen, I really want to work closer with you guys. Mm-hmm. So, I've seen this happen so many times where sometimes it's just not that person that you've provided value to, but you did put value out there in the world and it comes back. But there's so many scenarios that happen like that. I'm sure, you have some in your mind as well.
No, yeah, it definitely happens all the time in business. I think the biggest thing I struggled with when I first started in leadership, and still today it comes up, because in life we set expectations on people and things and outcomes. And the thing that frustrates me the most, or when I find myself getting frustrated in business, is when I have a certain expectation and the expectation is not being met. Yes. It's the same thing in marriage and relationships and friendships and with kids, pets, you name it, right? Even if you get like a service and it doesn't meet your expectations, you find yourself not being the most happy. So sometimes something that I always want to work on and get better at is not always attaching crazy expectations to each individual person. I think a big mistake that newer leaders make is that they think that every single person that comes in that has a good month is going to have a good year, is going to have a good decade. They might just have a good month. They might not be someone that's going to have a good year with you. And it might not be anything that you do or your fault, but it could happen anyway. And if you remove the expectation and instead just focus on your production and your effort, you'll get the result, but it might not come from that specific person.
Exactly. Yeah, that's happens. It's happened to us so many times. Just talking about, let's say, the solar business in general. We've there's people that we've mentored, there's people that we've taught, and they've learned great skills, and then they've moved on. They've taken those skills and they're succeeding elsewhere, and we're very happy that they are succeeding elsewhere. And they might be working for competing companies and things like that, but the people that were near them that saw the value we provided or saw what we taught them. There's people that came out of the woodwork, or people that just maybe weren't working with us, but randomly say, hey, listen, we could see this person winning because of what you taught them. Or we saw, you helped this person really win. Could you guys do the same with me? And then this person comes out of nowhere and becomes a top producer in the company, becomes a top representative in the company. And little did we know, we were sowing. It's just not always in the exact place. And that expectation, I think people in entrepreneurship need to really understand that you can't put input without seeing some kind of output. It will occur. It's just got to be in the right timing. And there's a healthy balance. Sometimes you could be putting input in the wrong areas. Let's say if we were working on something completely wrong. Let's say for us, at a specific time, it was going across the country doing blitzes. Right, we did a decent amount of input in that area, and blitzes in solar, it's spending 10 days at a time in a different state, and that was fine, that was great. But if we're not growing as a company, or we're not really growing, then it's input in the wrong area. You do need to be cognizant and understand that. Hey, sometimes you do need to switch things up. There's a difference between input, and expecting output, and also knowing when you're putting input in the wrong areas and wrong.
I agree completely with that. Another thing that I've noticed too that people do is they think that they think that they're bound for bad things or bound for good things, and you're just bound for things. So people will expect everything to work their way. Some people will be super negative and think everyone's going to screw them over. Yeah. The truth of the matter is, think about a Wagyu steak. I think it's delicious. Some people are vegans and they don't like it. So you could be a Wagyu steak to every single person, cooked medium rare, roasted, delicious, a little garlic butter on top. You're going to come across people that are vegans. And this is a metaphor, of course, for your business. We've had people that we've poured into and given everything to and done everything from the front. For whatever reason, we just didn't click. Yep. And that happens from time to time. Genuinely, if you work on yourself and personally develop, it's not going to happen a lot. Yeah. But you're not going to mix well with every single person.
We don't mix well with vegans, by the way. Just
And you also don't know other people's intentions.
That's true.
As much as you personally develop, and you develop the power of discernment by being more spiritual, in touch with a higher power, you don't know exactly what's going on in someone's mind or what's going on in someone's life. There's actually been times where people aren't even bad people. They just have had outside circumstances happen to them and they've fallen off, and it really has nothing to do with us. Even the other day, for example, we're reaching out to someone, trying to recruit them. I'm like, man, this person's not answering. Turns out they have a serious family issue that they're dealing with, and they got back to us. So it's not always what you see or what you think as well. You have to just trust that things are going to work out, and typically they do, one way or the other.
Exactly. Yeah, they work out exactly how you believe it to work out. If you have good intentions, you're doing business ethically the right way, and you're pouring and providing value, then it's going to have an outcome in your business in some way, shape, or form. It's just not always instant. You don't see it fast. But yeah, that's one topic that we had somebody hit on and had a real interest in wanting to learn about today. The second topic that somebody had asked us about was using the power of your mind and how to use it efficiently to create success in business. So I know it's a little bit of a deep question, is how do you use your mind better to create success or be very efficient in business? So I think that answer, there's a couple ways to go across that,
Sure.
answer. How would you start with that?
I think taking time to think about what you want and then working backwards from the specific outcome. And then also sometimes taking a look at your business 90 days previously and seeing what that outcome is going to give you. For example, in the solar business, like understand the business that you're in when the result's going to happen. I know in this business that depending on the market, it's anywhere from 30 to 60 days. The work we're doing today or the work the team is doing today is going to show up in terms of money.
Correct.
So I can analyze the last 30 to 60 days, forecast what we're going to make. And if I'm not pleased with the outcome, I can analyze, okay, who was blitzing at that time? Who was working at that time? Were we doing leads at that time? What was our recruiting efforts at that time? What was our marketing like at that time? And then I can use my mind to get creative to what could I have done better?
True.
And that's a simple way, more tactically, to analyze it.
100%, 100%. There's that's stuff that we do pretty often, is sit down and analyze, how did our past few months go? What can we do? How can we implement things better? To go even one step deeper, I think sometimes people, and we used that phrase earlier, which was, I need to see it to believe it. Sometimes people, they don't structure things in their mind properly, and it's because maybe ignorance, or just maybe because lack of skill. It's not taught. This type of stuff is not taught in school. So and if they're not structuring things in their mind properly, or structuring things, then they're going to have a improper expectation and outcome. So what I mean by that is this. For example, if there's a hierarchy of thought process, at the absolute top of the hierarchy, because we have a subconscious mind. People have read Law of Success or Napoleon Hill, if you're in the right vibrations of things, then you can attract the information that you need to know to create success in whatever industry you're in. You can attract that information. So how do we do that? At the complete top of the mind, there should be your belief system. So people's belief system is completely at the top of the mind. And people sometimes put this at the bottom of the pedestal. And then if that's the hierarchy, that's the top. Underneath the belief system is emotions. So you believe specific things, and then you have some emotions. They're overpowered. And then after your emotions is your thoughts, normal thoughts that you think on a day-to-day basis. So the thoughts are absolutely at the bottom of the hierarchy, and your belief system's at the top. So if you believe in something specific, such as, I believe personally that I will have a very successful outcome in having a podcast channel, very successful outcome in solar business, very successful outcome in whatever endeavors that we've gotten into or businesses that I've done. I've had a belief that I will create success in this no matter what, it will happen. And because of that belief, then my emotions are such, and then my thoughts are as such. So some people go into something, with the belief that they might fail, or this is going to be bad, or this is going to be this, or every time I've done this in my life, I've always failed, or every time I've done that in my life, just like you'd kind of said, and then that trickles down, and they have negative emotions that kind of don't coincide with what the outcome that they want. And then that trickles down, and they have bad thoughts on a day-to-day basis about what it is that they're doing. So, my suggestion in that power of the mind type of stuff to create efficient success is to know that you will always win, or you'll always have an outcome, or you'll always learn something that will benefit you. And then that will trickle down and really help you with your emotions and your thoughts.
Super important. I think another thing is, I always hear people saying they want to go to the next level. And a lot of times the people that struggle the most with going to the next level are people that are already doing well, because they're very comfortable. They live a comfortable life. Their actions don't match what they're speaking into existence. Your actions, in the Bible, it talks about you need to have faith, but faith without deeds is dead. Doesn't matter what you believe if you don't take any sort of action. And sometimes being in a successful position to take the action, you have to put yourself in an uncomfortable situation. Now, if you're already worth $1 million and you're coming into solar sales, for example, you might not want to go out and knock doors or call leads or do the actual work. Maybe move the money into a separate money market account or a crypto account, or put it somewhere you don't have as easily access to, and keep your checking account a little bit low. Keep yourself a little hungrier. Yep. For example, if your team is doing well and they're killing it in a certain place, and we find ourselves more working from an office environment, let's go out into the field. We're traveling to California to see some people in the field. We're actually probably going to move to California this summer for the summer program. Yeah. Putting yourself in an uncomfortable situation will allow yourself to get to the next level of success. You don't need to go broke, but you need to put yourself in a state of hunger. The times where I've put myself in a state of hunger are when I've hit the next levels of success. When we left Freedom and we joined Better Earth, we stopped drinking for like 6 months. Yep. That was something that we didn't need to do. We didn't have a drinking problem, but completely separating from that bad habit allowed us to develop more skills and put more effort into building the business and launching. So those are just some examples, I think, of making yourself uncomfortable that a lot of people say they want to do, but they don't know how to actually do it.
Yeah. No, we always have this joke that every time we think we see a rep, we can see what our some of our top earners are making. Some of our top earners make 20 to 50 grand a month. So when we see someone get a check for 20K, we always make a bet and we say, hey, this person's probably going to go screw off for the next 60 days. We're probably not going to hear from them again for the next 30, 40 days. I guarantee you. And it happens very often because they get something that is a great amount of money that they've never seen before. And then they get very comfortable. And then that comfortability leads to them being uncomfortable because they ran out of money. And then they come back and then they execute and they go make some similar kind of money, but they're in like this endless loop or endless cycle. I saw a phrase, I really like it. This is a real good phrase. It's coming to my mind. So it's what do you call it? Strong men create good times. Good times create weak men, and then weak men create hard times, and hard times create strong men. So it's a continuous cycle. It's a continuous cycle. So, and that's why that sometimes people say that if someone's very wealthy, then their children screw around. Sometimes certain wealthy presidents might have children that screw around and stuff like that. And sometimes that's a cycle. And planning when you're even planning to raise your kids, and that you're going to be a specific level of entrepreneurship or success in life, it's important for us to know to make sure that even children earn what they have and aren't like just given anything that they want, so they don't grow up into that like endless cycle basically. But yeah.
Absolutely. And the last thing I would say on this topic is the more people that are counting on you, the less likely you are to give up. So like if you're married, that's another person that's counting on you. You're not going to give up for your significant other. If you have children, you're not going to give up for your children. If you're taking care of your parents, you're not going to give up for your parents. If you have pets, you're not going to give up on your pets. If you're a member of your church or clergy, or you're involved in some charitable group, or you have some sort of vision or mission, you're not going to give up on that. Your foster parent, if you don't have something that you're living for other than yourself, it's going to be tough to get to the next level. Eventually, you'll make enough money to where you're comfortable. But if you have other people that are counting on you, you're going to want to be a better person to set that example for those other people.
I think the mind is extremely powerful, and whatever you see in your mind is how you live your life. So we encourage all you guys to start seeing things differently.